Hey, it's Mike Hambright with FlipNerd.com. Welcome back for another exciting VIP interview where I interview some of the most successful real estate investing experts and entrepreneurs in our industry to help you learn and grow. Today, I'm joined by Coach Collard. He's a real estate investor, a trainer, and a coach, and he teaches others how to successfully invest in real estate. His focus is teaching others how to succeed through building relationships and networking, which is something we can all always learn from, and how to teach others to stick to their fundamentals. It's an interesting topic because at this time, the market is hot in a lot of areas right now, which is pushing up prices, and it's forcing a lot of real estate investors to either move away from their fundamentals and overpay for houses or maybe lose out. So I don't have a good answer as to where you should go there, but Coach does. So we're going to talk about that today. Before we get started, though, let's take a moment to recognize our featured sponsors. RealtyMogul.com is an online marketplace for real estate investing, connecting borrowers and capital from accredited and institutional investors. Get a rehab loan fast and close in as little as 10 days. Rates start as low as 9%. We'd also like to thank National Real Estate Insurance Group, the nation's leading provider of insurance to the residential real estate investor market. From individual properties to large-scale investors, National Real Estate Insurance Group is ready to serve you. Please note, the views and opinions expressed by the individuals in this program do not necessarily reflect those of FlipNerd.com or any of its partners, advertisers, or affiliates. Please consult professionals before making any investment or tax decisions, as real estate investing can be risky. Hey, Coach, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. Happy to talk to you about a couple of really important topics. So before we get started with talking about the importance of networking and building relationships, and before we talk about kind of the fundamentals and how to really survive in a market where you're kind of being potentially pushed away from your fundamentals, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, your background, and how you got into real estate and where you spend your time these days?
Gotcha. So I started May 7th, 1999. I moved from Phoenix. It was right after my dad had just passed away. And I was just looking for a change. I wanted to go learn the mortgage business and play golf. So ended up in Scottsdale, Arizona. Okay. And sure enough, in learning the mortgage business, I had the unique opportunity to learn for 6 months and get all the mortgage business in me, so to speak. And as I was working on a subprime refi, I ran across my first transaction. So I was studying Carlton Sheets on the side, and it just started making sense to me. And I would say to this day, I believe my finance knowledge and being able to see through the trustee sale process in most states gave me a competitive edge. That's really what's made me a lot of money.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of folks that definitely don't, they do deals and move transaction to transaction, but they're not really grounded in financial fundamentals. They're just kind of flying by the seat of their pants. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. I had a background. I had a unique experience as well. I happened to be a Spanish major from the University of Texas, so I speak fully bilingual in Spanish. And I served as a volunteer Spanish pastor for 5 years. Oh, wow. So I kind of have a biblical perspective and view on real estate as well. Like, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the real estate, stuff like that. Yeah. So that really roots me into the fundamentals, and I stick to those because it's easy to get off chasing stuff.
Yeah. Well, we're going to listen to some of your sermon today.
Let's do it.
Well, and kind of talk a little bit about your business today. What you primarily focus on, what your structure is, and I know you teach and educate others. And just give us a little bit of a backdrop on that as well.
Absolutely. So, I've made mistakes just like everybody else, and so I had a train wreck in my marriage and businesses and different things down in Phoenix. So I actually got divorced at the end of 2010 and took a little time for myself to regroup and study me and evaluate me and get me right again. So I was out of balance fundamentals wise. So as I did that, I realized the intense and immense knowledge that I had. And so I evaluated that, and circumstance would have it, I just ended up here in Las Vegas. I didn't see it coming. I wasn't planning on being here. And sure enough, it didn't take me 3 months to establish my network, and just opportunities started flying at me. So I'll talk a little bit about that if you like, but that's how I ended up here. Okay. And that's kind of, so, just going off that a little bit. When I got here, September 2011, I was involved with the Keller Williams office, a realty office, and I was talking to them about productivity coaching and that type of thing. And all I did was use their facility and started having a training event and established a few relationships. And next thing you know, opportunities started coming to me. So I'm a big promoter of investing into other people, and I actually have a value proposition called that: investor in man and land, in that order. So your experience of me, Mike, or you, anybody I'm talking to that's watching us, is going to be I'm committed to appreciating you and increasing you in value, regardless of whether we transact real estate. And what I've found from a fundamentals place is that when I sow into other people, they're willing and able to sow back to me. So they bring me opportunities. They want to call me. They want to establish relationships. We'll go offline and have cocktails and have dinner together and get to know each other. And it just makes business that much easier.
Yeah. We've talked about, I one of the things that, just to tell people offline, we talked about beforehand, is at this point when I've done over 130 shows, I have to think about the content of the show and try to not talk about things that we've talked about too many times before. And we have lately talked about the importance of networking, but I think that is something that's so fundamental to all of our businesses that you can never talk about that too much. And I think with sellers, from every aspect of our business, when we're talking with sellers, they are often in a situation where they need to talk to somebody that they can trust. Or if they don't make a decision today, which often is, in my experience, often we get a lot of stuff in the follow-up process. But if you didn't do a good job of building a relationship with that person, you're never going to get that deal. You're never going to get them to refer you to somebody else that might need our help. And then from every aspect of people that you coach or mentor or vendors, everybody that you work with, everybody wants to work with people that they like and they trust and they would recommend to other people.
That's absolutely true.
And so I think
I've got a little more to add to that, if you're okay with it.
Preach,
one of the
brother.
things. Okay, so one of the things that we've all experienced since 2007 and the Alt-A crisis that happened is that things started to shift, and there was a disconnect between people and reality. Everybody still had the same mindsets, but the markets had changed, and people were running into new circumstances. Short sales became popular, and it hadn't previously been popular, and that type of thing. And what I found is that whether you're marketing to get the phone to ring for a fix and flip opportunity, or whether you're establishing a network to bringing people to you, the key conversation is to be able to relate to people and communicate on their level. So having activity to their emotional circumstance is a big piece. And so that takes networking and relationship to a different level. These individuals, from my point of view, are distressed, motivated, and flexible, I like to call it. And in that, there's some tough conversations, and the more sensitive and tools you are to that, to be able to have real conversations with them, honest conversations, still sensitive conversations, really opens up doors. And I've been able to get opportunities and close deals that other people couldn't get because they didn't have that relationship ability.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
I think that's huge.
And a lot of us face competitive situations. And if nothing else, it doesn't mean that, opportunities you'll get second. What I like to say is you're going to get a second swing at the ball sometimes. So somebody may say, look, I got a better offer from this other guy or from 4 other people, and I like you the best of all of them, but these are their offers, and the money is important to me too. And at least they'll tell you that sometimes. So you'll get another shot to get a deal, where if they don't like you, they're not even going to tell you. They're not going to give you another swing at the ball. I mean, first off, your offer wasn't the highest, and they didn't like you. You're just off the list at that point. So, yeah.
Yeah, our experience here is we quite seldom ever have that happen. It does happen, but quite seldom, because of the relationship that we have. So we've already rooted out their needs at a deep level. We've already established that connection. We've been kind of, I don't want to say a pastor to them, but we've been a confidant to connect to them, to answer questions, and we're always completely above board and forthright with everything. And we also don't chase, so I'll never put anybody under pressure to sign the deal. I let them do it on their own terms.
Yeah. That's great.
Big.
Well, so tell us a little bit more about the topic of the day, which we're going to talk about just the importance of building relationships. We've been talking about it here for a little bit about sellers, but talk about it in the context of just other people that you work with. It could be other investors. It could be vendors or contractors that you work with in your business. If there's, in real estate investing, we all have a massive network of people that are usually helping our business work. Even if you don't do a lot of volume, you've got probably a bunch of contractors that you're in and around your space, and just talk about how important that is to the most people's business.
Certainly. Well, from cornerstone of our business, relationships with everything. So we expand that out to what we call our network or our team. And with all of our professionals, we meet with them face to face, we interview them, and we establish a win-win place on how we can work with them and how they operate. We also want to know how we can refer them business, and we set that expectation up front when we first meet. So I'm going to say to you, I'm going to be like, hey, what can I do to help you grow your business? As by the way, before we end our conversation, so that they know that I'm interested in helping them grow as well. We make our entire power team available to other people that we work with and have a relationship with. So if I've got somebody that could serve you, I'll let you know who they are and introduce you. But I always come from an empowered place that you may not like my contractor. He may be great for me, but you may not like him. So I'll make the referral, but the expectation is that you're going to establish your own relationship, or not, and that's okay too. But what we found in doing that is making our resources available to people. It takes some intimidation out, so they're more willing to call us regularly and talk to us, but they also refer us opportunities or deals as well. So that's been the power crux of what we do, is the relationships bring us opportunities. And in a place like Vegas, when the market shifts, you better believe it gets super competitive. So as soon as the market softened here, everybody starts jumping ship and saying, hey, there's no opportunities. But we still had them coming because we got such a big network referring them to us.
Yeah. And how do you think this day and age, when a lot of people seem to feel more comfortable sitting behind a computer and doing, there's a bunch of folks that do deals virtually that, over the computer, it's hard to build those relationships. So you kind of talk about just some general trends of where things are going, or how those folks, obviously are missing out in some regards, but just talk about that kind of general trend of people hiding behind a computer or a cell phone.
So I'll disagree with anybody that might be able to make a high level, high volume business work online. Yeah. Cool. Knock yourself out. We're in the years of leverage. Go ahead. There is with it a disconnect in the people part of it, because even though you and I can see each other really well and we seem to be connecting, we can't see each other's body language at the same level. And there's something to be said when you're sitting in front of somebody to really relate to them, whether it be sellers or vendor professionals, would-be buyers, or anybody you're working with. It's really important. So I think the reason it's important is because people still have a human need to connect. Yeah. And I have say this pompously, but I have a strong ability to connect to people. So when it's necessary to do things online or via Skype and that type of thing, I can make that connection. But I've also worked on it. I spend a lot of time working on my communication, my ability to read people, things like that. And that's a big piece of my business that I would say, if you're going to play online, you need to develop that. Yeah. That'd be a big piece.
Yeah, I'd say, just not that we're here to necessarily talk about me, but with the show that I do here, a lot of people have asked, there's a lot of folks that I've had on the show that are like, I've been on several other podcasts, but they're all audio podcasts. And actually all the top guys are my friends. I mean, I know all these guys. So, and a lot of them are audio podcasts, which there's nothing wrong with, but I do this for a few different reasons. One of them is to network, because I understand the value of it. And it's just hard for me to build a relationship with somebody unless I can see them. It's not the same as if you're sitting across the table here from me, but at least I got to see what you look like and talk about it and some facial features. And so in all honesty, we actually get far more audio downloads of our podcast than video views, just because people listen to them on the go and things like that. But in terms of me doing this and enjoying it and doing as many shows as I've done and excited about what the future holds, it's all because I got to see and kind of talk to people, and I just think it's easier to meet them. So I get what you're saying, but yeah.
Agree.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, one of the things that's interesting is before we got started here, you were talking about teaching people to stick to their fundamentals of real estate investing. And I think we're preaching from the same book, if you will. We got kind of a theme going on here, because I always teach people to stick to your guns. And but there's no doubt in a market like today, where the market is really hot, the retail market's hot, everybody and their brother is an investor, and they're pushing prices up outside of a comfort zone for most people that want to stick to their fundamentals. And right. So what is one to do if they want to stick to their fundamentals, but they need to they want to keep their business going?
Okay, so I think I've got a couple of answers for that. So one, I'm gonna encourage everybody to put their business plan or their model on how they invest onto paper. so that it's very clear, so that when they're out there in the streets in the market and they're working on a transaction or an opportunity or a deal, that they're not tempted to compromise what their fundamentals are just because the numbers sound good, but they have something to, a baseline, if you will, to say, hey, does that fit what I'm looking for?
Right.
That's one issue. And then secondly, when the markets shift and you're looking at something and you feel, gosh, the market's super competitive and things are getting out of hand. I've passed on the last 4 transactions because they don't fit my model, but I feel like I'm getting lost and I'm not going to do any deals. So, I can understand that, but the fundamentals don't go away. If you change your model to support a market shift, which we did last year, we adjusted our maximum allowable offer on a fix and flip summer of 2013. We went from 70% to 80%. But we also had a year prior of 25 to 31% appreciation across the market here in Vegas. So it was very strategic to do so.
Yeah.
So I would say the power play in being able to adjust to competition is to fundamentally be a market specialist. If you can read the market and really understand, then you can fudge, if you will, or change your model to support what the market's doing to stay in the game.
Yeah, I think even in my business, I've seen over the years, I think it's really important for real estate investors to be able to shift their exit strategy based on what's going on in the market. So several years back, we kept more houses as rentals. Now we tend to be retailing more. It's because it's harder to buy them deep and wholesale. And I make more money retailing. So, I mean, fundamentally, we could almost do half the volume we were doing because we're retailing them and making more money on each one. And so I think it's important to be able to kind of ebb and flow because at the end of the day, you don't want to get knocked out because the market changed and you couldn't.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. And, I would add to that, in shifting with the ebb and flow of the markets, your fundamentals allow you more than a single, what I call a one-trick pony. So a person might have done 100 fix and flips in the last 2 years, but he's passed on some seller finance or creative opportunities because he doesn't see those. So, learning to be a robust person for me is a fundamental. That way I don't get stuck in markets.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I have multiple options, if you will.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about some of your creative solutions that you use. I've really been intrigued lately by some of the seller finance folks that I know, which I've always known it's a strong model, but it's just not something that I've really done. I mean,
Sure.
I sit here today and I have a rental portfolio that I'm thinking of just seller financing the whole thing because there's a lot of appeal to that versus dealing with all the maintenance issues that I've been dealing with lately. But just
Sure.
talk a little bit about some of the creative options that, as the market kind of gets hotter here, that might allow people to do more deals.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I have a lot of new investors share with me is that they never have enough cash to write the big check, right? And I said, well, if your numbers work, somebody else will always write the check for you. Or if you're really in tune with the DMF, the distress, motivation, and flexibility of a seller, you might be able to meet their needs differently and be able to communicate that. So I'll give you a perfect example. Last summer, right at the end of our market upswing, if you will, a gentleman was moving off to Washington State, and we found him on Craigslist. It was just a for sale by owner, and it said in the ad that he was leaving something on the table for us. So we point blanked, told him we're investors, told him we're looking to make money, told him that we're leverage guys, and he connected to us. We connected to him, had a great relationship initially, and he said, well, I think I'm leaving enough on the table for somebody. But my concern is I need to get out of here in 30 days. So we were really in tune with that. And I said, well, I'm willing and able to get you out of there in 30 days. I think the numbers work for us. But my one question is, I don't want to write a check for $95K. I'd like to just buy your equity and take over your mortgage. Would you be open to that? And he says, absolutely. If we can talk about a net figure to me and I can get it in 30 days. And so rather than writing a $95,000 check, we took his property subject to and basically purchased his equity for the difference. He netted $20,000, and we accounted for a couple of grand in closing costs. He said he owed $73,000. When we ordered the payoff, he only owed 71 and change. So I made an extra $1,600 off his payoff, and we turned and flipped the property in less than 28 days and made a really, really nice return. So in that scenario, answering your question, it's not so much about the strategies, it's separating them into acquisition and then exit.
Okay.
And for the acquisition, we used our own cash, but we only purchased the equity and took the property subject to, and then we turned around and sold it as a flip. We put maybe $648 into the whole property.
Yeah.
So It was really nice. So do you see the combination technique there?
Yeah.
Creative finance on the front side, but fix and flip on the back side. Effectively the same thing. We just didn't write as big of a check.
Yeah. Why don't you share a little bit just based on the example you gave and kind of back to the importance of relationships and networking. Why don't you give some of your general advice on how to think about solving the seller's problem more so than trying to solve your problem?
Okay. So again, I mentioned this at the beginning of our interview here, is that my competitive edge that I feel that I have is my finance knowledge. So I'm always looking to analyze existing finance, and to use a term from a guy out of Colorado, I think his name's Bill Bronchick, he calls it fixing the financing. So I actually look to fix people's financing instead of their circumstance, because their circumstance is driven from their financing.
Yeah.
So I actually look for seller finance options or for a leverage point, because the seller ultimately could be your best partner. And so I'm not interested in what I can bring to the table. I'm listening to their needs. And then as I identify their needs, I suggest it to them. Hey, are you looking for a certain dollar amount, or, are you open to this? And when they say they are, I suggest what it might look like without describing it, because they're going to have some intimidation. In this particular case, this gentleman had his wife sit with us as well, and she had been in the title business before, and immediately her walls went up, and she says, that sounds like it's a non-title transaction. I said, well, I could understand why you would say that, but we're glad to go through a title company and do everything above board the standard way. It's just we're not going to pay your loan off until we sell the property.
Right.
And she said, if we go through title, I'm good. So it's really just listening to people's needs.
Yeah.
And my knowledge, my ability to go in and out helps me support that with a solution, so that I'm not giving them an idea without support, so to speak.
Yeah.
Does that make
And
sense?
kind of along the lines of sticking to fundamentals, being able to survive, not just survive, but maybe thrive when markets change. One of the things that I've personally felt blessed for over the past year or so, as the market has kind of shifted here where I'm at, is that I've taken the time over the past several years to build up a rental portfolio, other cash flowing assets, and things that help me weather the storm, or help me get through those times, or it gives you, it's an insurance policy if nothing else. So there's a lot of folks that are just wholesaling, transactional deal to deal, or fixing flipping houses deal to deal, and they haven't built that up. Just maybe share some of your experiences on, for folks that are in that situation, find themselves in that situation, what they can do to kind of build up those other income generating businesses or activities so that they've got an insurance policy there.
Absolutely. You know what? I'm going to reference somebody in this, if it's okay.
Yeah.
He's actually out of Dallas. His name's Jim McKissick. He is an owner of a Keller Williams office with his wife, and several offices, in fact. But he focuses full time on investing. And one of the most powerful things he ever said to me, that I say to everybody else as well, and I watch it all the time and it happens, is that the reason most people do just wholesaling or fix and flips is because they can't manage their money to the place where they actually have income. And so they're playing from a place of almost broke. And so they need that big paycheck. And the first thing he said is, hey, I'm going to recommend to you that you learn how to manage debt. So for those of you that don't know how to manage debt, go to a Dave Ramsey course and learn about getting out of debt first, then go invest. And what I did is broke that down, and I realized there's a lot of people buying properties, and they would never be able to hold a property as a rental, because they play in their life broke. They may own real estate, but the minute a toilet breaks or they have responsibilities to write a check, it causes them difficulty. So they'd rather just unload the wealth building opportunity up front for a big chunk rather than wait for the smaller cash flows that come.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So the fun is that just we've got to incorporate money management and our financial capacities as an underlying foundation for wealth building. Otherwise, it's counterintuitive to what you're doing.
Yeah. Awesome.
So that'd be my take on it.
Yeah. So we're coming down close to a few minutes left here of our time. Why don't you share some just general insights, kind of maybe summarize what you think on the importance of building networks and relationships, and kind of sticking to your fundamentals and being able to shift when markets change, all the things we've talked about today. Why don't you give us kind of an overall summary of guidance you give people?
Got it. So I'll just say it like this. All markets shift, and no man's an island to withstand all market shifts. So you need to consider what other options you have, but focus on your primary wheelhouse, if you will. If you're a fastball pitcher, be a fastball pitcher, but have some other options available. Whatever market you work in, master that market, don't worry about whether it's going up or down or sideways. Be willing to shift your strategy, and then have a very strong, fundamentally sound power team to help you shift. There'll be guys that you won't talk to or use in 6 months, but I'm going to encourage you to talk to them every 2 months to make sure that that relationship's hot and warm, so that you're a priority when you do call.
Yeah.
Or maybe they call you and there's an opportunity for y'all to work together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all markets shift, and we just got to be ready for that.
Yep, absolutely. That's great advice. How about if folks want to learn more about you and some of the things you're working on, where should they go?
Well, I'd love to send you to a phenomenal website, but I don't do that much anymore. So I would just ask them to call me or email me. I can give you tons of resources and things like that, but I like to connect to people and know who I'm sharing information with. If you really want some material, you can find me on YouTube. Just look under Coach Cost, and I've got plenty of videos as well. So
Okay, and we'll add any contact information you share down below the video here for folks. So
sure. Okay, I can share it now if that's okay.
Yeah, if you want to, go ahead. For those that are listening.
Yeah, so you can text me or call me direct at 702-625-2107, or you can always email me at mark@coachcollard.com, and it's collard like collard greens.
Awesome. I'm writing a note here. Sorry for the pause. So, hey,
No worries.
Coach, thanks so much for joining us today. We definitely appreciate your insights, and I think people got a lot out of it. And I think with the market where it is now, I think people realize the importance of networking. And I think a lot of people look back and they say, I wish I had done things differently over the past year or two in terms of maintaining those relationships. And if this is resonating with you and you're hearing that, it's never too late to start doing that. Just make sure you do it differently from here on out.
Well said. Hey, I appreciate you having me on today. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for joining us, Coach. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Bet.
Are you a member of FlipNerd.com, the most robust real estate investing platform in existence, where you can find off-market wholesale deals and great vendors literally in your market? You can get access to advice from experts and learn about local clubs and events right in your backyard. If not, please visit FlipNerd.com and register for a free account. You can register in less than a minute. It's pretty much the coolest site that's ever existed in the real estate investing industry. So get on over to FlipNerd.com.